Welcome to the Blackwash Televised Art Gallery. My name is Stacey Ellis. I'm the producer and host of the show. Today we have a very special visual artist. Her name is Reese, and we've invited her here to talk about her work and share her creativity with you. Kay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stacey.
You want to tell the viewing audience what type of artwork you do. You've been through an interesting transition, right, and I'd like you to share not only the type of work you're doing, but also the transition that led to it.
Right. Well, I am a visual artist and painter and drawer and photographer. And most of the time I was doing drawings and collage work, some works on paper. When I won the Brio, I won in artist book printing.
Okay.
Basically, drawing and printmaking. So I had these drawings, I was doing these drawings, and I was using photographs in the drawings as well. And that was very gratifying because I was handling materials. And then I sustained an injury in my hands because I was holding, cutting, etc., and I had carpal tunnel syndrome. So I started using the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was creating collage work using the photographs, drawings, but also collaging the images in a kind of surreal way because I've learned that that's how I function.
Okay.
Okay, that's the kind of imagery that I produce. There's always something a little quirky, you know, mixing things together that don't necessarily seem to go together. So anyway, I was doing that for a long time, but I felt something was missing. Couldn't put my finger on it. But working with the computer, it opens up so many different options, yes, and creative options, yes, that you can just explore. Yeah. And that's just my element. You know, I'm just always exploring new things, new ideas, putting things together, see how they work together. So in doing that, I also, at the same time, what was happening socially was affecting me. For example, when I was producing this work, the whole Diallo thing came up. Mm-hmm. Okay, Diallo was killed over in the South Bronx, East Bronx. And that I felt that very seriously. And so I went over to his place, actually, and took some photographs, uh-huh, of the location, uh-huh, and did a massive drawing in charcoal, in pastels. And I pasted some of the images that I had taken of his face.
Right.
Okay. And the picture basically was a huge doorway because I took a picture of his doorway and I was just amazed at how narrow the doorway was. And it seemed like a tomb, you know, so I put that image together. And so many things were going on socially in America, in the city, so much violence, that it was really, I was really feeling it. And then we had Katrina and that whole thing. Mm-hmm. So I realized that I couldn't separate my life and what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing and the injustices and the dichotomies and the contradictions from my work.
That's a good thing.
Yes, I think so too.
A very good thing.
I think it's real and I think it's true. And you know, we're not just floating around in society, you know, with like non-entities.
Right.
We are impacted by everything that goes on in our society, whether we are officially connected to it or not. And I think that's what, as artists, that's what we do. We absorb our environment and we respond to it.
Well, I think we have different schools. Some people try to escape into the ivory tower while Katrina's going on, somebody's painting a vase of flowers. Mm-hmm. It's not a criticism, it's a choice.
Right.
But to me, it's very valuable and very viable to absorb what's going on and put it out there in your work. So
Right.
I think that's an excellent choice.
Well, I think it goes, for me, it goes beyond a choice, because I feel these things. It's like something that just gnaws at you and just keeps, there's a sense of urgency to
Right.
respond to it.
Right.
And I can't separate that out, because even if I try to do something else, it's always there, and
Well,
it's always bugging the daylights out of me.
That's a very good thing. That's
Yeah,
a very good thing.
yeah. And so after I've communicated these feelings, then I'm fine, then I'm okay. But there's so much always going on that I'm always responding to the environment. But then I went into a whole, it's kind of exhausting though too. So having the computer, I also began to just play around with different concepts, visual concepts, the photography, the computer itself. And I looked at the scanner. I was always trying to get a sense of motion on a two-dimensional surface without using a video camera and
Right.
printing it.
Right.
And so it came to me one day that I could do that with a scanner. I could actually move objects in the scanner
Right.
as the scanner was scanning.
Right.
And I won't tell you where that choice of inspiration came to me, but it was at night, and I was like in the bathroom, and I was like, I could use that. So that's what I did. The next day, I opened the scanner, and I put my hand on it, and I did it the way you would normally put a piece of paper on the scanner. Okay, I kept it still, and I thought, wait a minute, I need to move. The
Right.
scanner, is
Right.
going to move. The light is going to move, but I
Right.
needed to move, and that opened up a whole different way of looking at things, because in the scanner, you're not supposed to be able to get a foreground and a background. Okay, so I discovered a lot of things just experimenting, and then I put some of those images, mixed some of those images with other photographic images. So it's just kind of like playing at a intellectual level, and that's what I felt. The work was kind of intellectualized, and so I started bringing in models and asking people to play in the scanner,
Okay.
which was interesting. I gave them a list of emotions that they could choose from, and then they could just respond, or they could even use objects.
Well, that's a new adult toy.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of things you could do with a scanner and move around, and it captures it. It captures it, and it freezes it in that moment. And if you create a motion, then it captures different aspects of the motion.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was really very dynamic use of the instrument.
Do you want to talk about some of the pieces that we'll be showing the viewing audience?
Yes. One in particular was very powerful. There's a friend of mine, Adrienne. I invited her to come and do a scanning, to create a K-scan. I call them K-scans. Why not, right?
Why not?
Why not? What else are you going to call them? And so she came in to my room, and she seemed very disturbed, very upset. And so I remarked about that, how she, because she seemed upset. And she said, yes, she was, because she had been trying to get a picture of her father. Her father apparently was deceased, and she never had a picture of him. So she was looking everywhere for a picture, a photograph. And so we talked about it, and when she felt okay with scanning, she sat down and she took the scanner in, and she moved, and I was, as the scanner was scanning, as it was printing, I was sitting there looking at the image coming out of the printer.
Right.
And it didn't look like her.
Oh.
It looked like a man.
Ooh.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, this is strange. You're weird. Just the two of us are in here. Where'd this guy come from? But at the end of the image, it looked more like her. And so I said to her, when I showed it to her, I said, do you know this person? She said, yes, that's my father.
Wow.
well, needless to say, we were both kind of blown away. And it was such a powerful image, you know. That was the most memorable scan I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And that was exhibited in a See Me exhibition down in Times Square, where they had the largest billboards, monitors in the world,
Mm-hmm.
actually. And they're stacked high, and so there are multiples of this image, of whatever image they put up there. And they use that, they used a couple of my images, but that one was like seeing this huge, huge face. And it's so powerful, you know, it just kind of, it smacks you all up in your face, you know.
Yeah.
That was amazing. That was amazing, and it was in Times Square last year.
So you want to talk a little bit about the Brio and your experience at Times Square, having your work there.
Yeah, well, that was interesting because I had been away from doing my work for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I fell prey to this whole thing of, you know, well, you can't really make art. You have to go out and earn a living, and, you know, which is
Yes.
fine, which is true.
Yes.
Okay, but no one kind of taught me growing up how you do that. You know, how you mesh those two things together,
Right.
being able to earn a living and being an artist. And that's who I am. That's who I've always been since I was 7 years old. You know, I was doing abstract kind of drawings, but I didn't understand it. And I never really in high school, I was able to try different materials, and I had a teacher who was very supportive, and they would enter me into all these different contests and whatnot, unbeknownst to me, because I didn't care. I just wanted to do the work and to play with the different techniques and the different materials, and I was in hog heaven. And the school art magazine was publishing my work, so I was fine. But no one really mentored me, you know, in terms of a future in the arts. So I learned to just like go get a job like everybody
Right.
else. But in doing that, I kind of abandoned my art. Okay, I was still doing some of it, but I didn't have a focus. And then once I started my own business, went through many years doing marketing communications, doing some writing, etc. And I just got sick of it, actually. You know, I just became more and more unhappy. And I realized I needed to get back to my art.
Well, I think the scanner, the technology part of it.
But this is after. This is after.
Yeah, but it sounds representative of you have a physical representation of how you turned work into play, into fun,
Yes.
into art.
Yes.
So when you look at the scanner, you can say, I did it.
Yes, yes. And I was moving while I did it, too. But the Brio came about. I was start back taking photographs and stuff. But I had all these old photographs that I had never really looked at before. And so I was making a pile of what good photographs and bad photographs. And I thought to myself, well, wait a minute. I'm the one who decides what's good and bad. And not only that, but I took these particular photographs for a reason. And I needed to explore what that reason it was, whether they were considered good or bad.
Right.
So I began to put those things together, and I began to put some drawings together using these used up photographs. And I found out about the Brio Award by happenstance. I was in the photography shop, and the guy was saying, oh, you know, you should enter the Brio. And I'm like, what's the Brio?
For our viewing audience, that's the Bronx recognizes its own award.
Right.
And
this was a new award. So I said, why not? You know, and so I submitted some work, and I won in the drawing and printmaking category. And so I was looking for, I guess I was looking for validation, like, do I have it? You know,
Right.
can I actually,
Right.
can I produce work that people respond to, okay, that has meaning beyond me? And that was great validation.
Great.
And they gave
great.
me money so I could get a new camera. So that worked really, really well.
So now, what pieces won? Do you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, you want to talk about that?
The pieces that won, they were mostly drawing-based, with a mixture of drawings and photographs. And I tend to see things in a kind of surrealistic way where there's a tremendous amount of spirituality in it, in the work, balanced with the graphic elements of photographs. So it's like in real time, a real-time image and a surreal image together. So these visuals are kind of juxtaposed against each other, which I find interesting. So it's like text and subtext.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, what you see and then the meaning of what you see.
Now, you participated in From the Slave Ship to the White House. And in
Yes.
that, you had a piece that was very, very interesting. Was there a transition? That piece was of a slave that had a very odd type of device around his neck.
Right.
But it was, like you said, juxtaposed against starry background and I believe laminated. I think.
Okay, might
Yeah,
have been
onto something.
Right, onto board.
So you want to talk about that piece a little bit and the departure into more collage photographic movement?
That change came about as a result of just thinking about who we are, okay, the society we live in, this kind of overwhelming and basically crushing sense of consumerism.
Oh, and your red carpet treatment works
Yes.
right with that.
And how human beings, I mean, as black people, or not just black people either, but throughout history, you see people bartering and people becoming objects.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You might want to describe the red carpet treatment to the audience. We'll show it to them.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
your
I was-
artistic
Yes.
description.
At the time, I was doing research into my own family's background. And I learned that my great-great-grandmother had been a formerly enslaved person. And in my researching, you know, our family name, just recalling stories my grandmother told me about her grandmother, who was Hester Lotos, that was her name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she was freed at Emancipation. And just thinking about our values, thinking about how we think about people as objects, as commodities,
Right.
okay? Which is really
Almost
It's
incomprehensible.
It's incomprehensible. But then I also looked at today. You know, we are such a consumerist society. We forget that once we used people as objects, once we bought people and sold people, and that's still going on today.
Yes.
In human trafficking.
Yeah.
And for all kinds of reasons. And I began to just think about what kind of mind do we have to have that we see that's okay? Just this, and the whole issue of desire, which is a theme that goes throughout surrealism. That's how surrealism came about. They were dealing with the theme of desire, human desire. And I thought, we desire things, not just each other, but we desire things, our desire to have, to possess, to the point where we are possessed.
Exactly.
So I'm asking, so I began to question, who is the slave and who is the enslaver?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
what are we actually saying about ourselves that our focus is so intent on having things?
It's very multi-layered because in this world, just viewing the corporate world, there's a point at which you have to lose your morality to do some of the things that are done.
Right. But then we have to make an adjustment.
Right.
Right? Because we're the ones buying.
Right, exactly.
So what are we buying?
Exactly. People, it's gotten to the point where, from my point of view, it's an addiction.
Yes.
It's an addiction. It's a serious disease on both sides.
Yes.
Because I mean, how much money can you have if
Right.
you are a producer of a product? How much money do you need? When are you going to stop? And then that image is projected not only to the consumer, but to those aspiring to be those same people that produce so much
Right.
that they have this much money. So it's this circle
cycle, yeah.
that needs
Unending. Yeah.
to be broken.
Well, this is the thing that propelled me into thinking about who is a slave,
Exactly.
who is enslaved, really. When you think about our society, are we slaves to what we need, what we desire? So I began to look at how this is played out. So I began to look at the environment that I was in, my room, my kitchen, my bathroom, okay, and to juxtapose images of formerly enslaved people against a modern backdrop, okay, because that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think we've
on
traveled
so many levels.
Yes, we think we've traveled far from slavery, but we are right in the middle of it. And so this is my way of just looking at it and examining it and inviting other people to examine it also.
When you work, take a listen to Gil Scott-Heron's Madison Avenue. Pretty pictures in your favorite magazine, span the distance between you and Mr. Clean. Fill your house up with a bunch of products you don't need. You know?
So
the
yes.
shopping network. Oh,
Yes.
please.
So the thing is, but we have this facade,
Yeah,
okay, of propriety
right.
and graciousness and charity and all of these righteous things, but underneath there's something else going on, and that's what I am seeing. And it goes back to when I was a kid. You know, I used to see these different see and hear these different dichotomies and contradictions that adults would kind of
Talk about.
yes, or even portray different actions that they would use. They would tell you, don't do this or don't do that, but they would just do that. I was like, wait a minute, something's wrong with this picture, you know. And I picked that up at a very early age. And so the older I got, the more I saw of it, you know. And so all of this together, you know, kind of is part of my thinking even today, because I see it more clearly today. And now I have words to use that I didn't have when I was 7, and an understanding of the world. And I also began to realize that coming up to the present, that the world that we've created is basically a construct.
Yeah, which is
Okay.
kind of scary.
Well, the thing is, but it also has redemptive value, because whatever you can make, you can unmake.
True.
You can deconstruct.
True.
And in my work today, when I'm putting pieces together, I am literally taking them apart, because these are found objects.
Right.
Okay. I'm taking them apart, and I'm reassociating them with other pieces that you wouldn't think could be together. They're disparate pieces, but when they come together, they create a whole different communication, a whole different level of understanding of a lot of different things that we can't really articulate because it's part emotional, part spiritual, part intellectual. You know, there's all of these things going on. So you know, it all comes. There are elements of all of these things, putting things together, looking at reality, understanding that there's psychology behind it, that there's spirituality behind it, the text and the subtext of life. All of these things I have been doing, but now they're all coming together in a way that didn't come together before. And it's relative to the social environment, so it has a social context. And some of the slave images are placed in contemporary spaces, because that's where we are.
Right.
They're in my kitchen, you know.
Gotcha.
Okay, they're in my bathroom in the towels. Okay, and
Gotcha.
it's questioning where we are. Where are we? Where are you? All right. Your